All right, hello everyone. Doug here with thelincolnlist.com, and I want to welcome you to Happy Hour. We're on episode number 23. We're like this close to our silver anniversary 25th episode, so that ought to be interesting. We've also had a pretty wild week in the markets. We had the healthcare bill kind of overlooming. We saw a pretty big sell-off, the first 1% down day, or actually 1% intraday move in the markets. Probably since the last 65 to 66 trading sessions. Don't quote me on that, but it's been a really long time since we've seen that kind of volatility, and the market kind of ended pretty weak with the delay of the bill, and then we saw just a little spike right there in the end. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what this means to you coming up here in the future and a couple of different trading ideas. So why should we wait? We have whiskey today that we need to drink and talk about, or at least I do anyway. And what I have here is from our friends up in the north, Spicebox Canadian Whiskey. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Woo! I like that. Got me. I like that anthem. I didn't mean to butcher up your anthem. I like it. We've got Stanley Cup playoffs coming up soon. Every time I hear that, I love it. So anyway, Spicebox Canadian Whiskey. Now, I don't know, I've never had this before, but it says it is a rye kind of whiskey, so I imagine it's going to be pretty close to a bourbon. I'm a little confused about the name Spicebox. It sounds kind of pornographic, doesn't it? Would you like to taste my Spicebox? Anyway. Now, the story behind this Spicebox whiskey, or where it gets its name, I should say, it doesn't have a year, or at least I don't see one here on the website that I'm looking at. But this is what they call true prohibition whiskey, according to their website. It claims that this was the bootlegger's whiskey. Some crafty Canadian entrepreneurs, they say, would put this whiskey into containers labeled spice, so they could get it through the border during Prohibition. And one day, because that scam seemed to be working out good or whatever it was, and then according to their website, one day one of the containers fell over and threw whiskey all over the floor, and hence these crafty Canadians were busted. So that's where it gets its name, Spicebox Canadian Whiskey, bootlegging Canadian whiskey. Now they've got all kinds of, I don't know if it's photoshopped, I'm going to post the pictures up here. They got all kinds of old, looks like 1920s and 30s pictures up there. Again, I don't know if they're photoshopped. Some of you Photoshop experts would know. But it says, as I told you, crafty Canadian entrepreneurs who smuggled contraband cargo across the border in wooden barrels marked spices. They figured it was the perfect camouflage and that the spices would infuse the whiskey with delicious flavors, creating something extraordinary. Will we get something extraordinary in this? I don't know. And here again it says, all was going according to plan until a barrel took a spill and their exporting days were over. Still, Canadian whiskey slowly but surely made its way throughout the continent by speedboat, cars, and airplanes. Now, I'm unsure about the comment cars and possibly airplanes, because we're talking about the 1920s, right? Did they have speedboats in the 1920s? I don't know what a speedboat would look like. So it does say here that the roadhouses or blind pigs and speakeasies along the Canadian side of the Detroit River would hide the whiskey in a creative way to avert the law. These places had watchtowers and were wired with what they call a top of the stick, and bottles of liquor would slide down the chute. So that is your story about Spicebox. I guess all you need to know, according to their website, this is the original Canadian bootlegging whiskey with the same spicy recipe from the days of Prohibition. Now, we've had Canadian whiskey on here before. If my fading memory serves me right, I think it was Pendleton whiskey. The rodeo whiskey, yeah, the rodeo whiskey. Now, since I started ranting here and just blah-blahing, I can tell this has a lot of spice in it because I'm starting to smell it. And we've also had like a honey-flavored, we had honey-flavored Dewars whiskeys. Now, I'm not a big fan of those. And Cold Cock whiskey was also sort of a herbal flavored type of whiskey. For those that are kind of new to whiskey, I mentioned before in a couple of these I believe these companies came out with these flavored whiskeys because I think it was Jack Daniels or Jim Beam. Somebody came out with a honey or a spicy whiskey a few years ago, and it was a big seller. And it's a good way to introduce new people to whiskey. So if you drink a scotch or you drink a straight whiskey, not a lot of people, it takes a while to get up to that. It's kind of like coffee. Not a lot of people just drink black straight coffee. We sort of start out drinking coffee with sugar and cream, and then later on we get rid of the cream, then we get rid of the sugar, and then after you've been drinking it for a while, you're on just straight coffee. Whiskey's the same. It's like an introduction whiskey. So a lot of people really hate that burn. So these spicy or flavored types of whiskeys are good to drink because, especially the honey kind, because when you drink it, it soothes the throat a little bit, taking away some of that alcohol burn, yet you can still, it's not overbearing, so you can have some of the taste. So that's a good thing. Now, a lot of these spicy whiskeys that have spices and other kind of flavors in them, a lot of people use these whiskeys for cooking. This is probably going to, I haven't drank it yet, it's probably going to be something that would be very good to cook with. So if you're making something like a bread pudding and you're putting the sauce on top of there and you want to put like a bourbon sauce or some sort of whiskey sauce on top of it, especially dessert style whiskey, this smells like it would go good. And even like holidays. It smells like holiday cheers. I should have saved this for Christmas. And poured it in my eggnog. So I'm going to drink it. It's got a very dark color, if you can see it. We're now doing these, by the way. I've tried a couple of these happy hours in color instead of black and white. Let me know your thoughts on that. But it's pretty dark. And like I said, it's really, you can smell, it's like a peppery spice. It really does. I can't smell any alcohol in it, but that doesn't mean anything. It actually smells like one of those, like holiday, like a cinnamon spice drink from Starbucks. So anyway, I'm going to drink it. I got a feeling what I'm going to get, but I'm going to be open-minded here. It's spicy. It's actually like it's really sweet. What was the other last? I think the Honey Dwarves was pretty sweet too. And Cold Cock whiskey was sweet. It's not bad. You know what this would actually be good for? Probably not what Spicebox intended it to be for. This would be good for like if you had a cold or the flu or you were like sick and you had some congestion. Like hot toddies. You guys know hot toddies. They put liquor in tea when you're not feeling so good. You got a cold or a flu, runny nose, sore throat. This is the kind of whiskey. It might open you up a little bit right here and you won't have to deal with mixing it. Or you could mix it with tea, but really sweet whiskey. I'm just like woofing it down because I can barely taste it. But it does say here on the bottle that it's got 80 proof, so it'll probably kick in the middle of all my rants. So Spicebox Canadian Whiskey. I would say if you, just like we did with Dwarves, like I already mentioned, if you have a hard time getting that whiskey down and that burn is too much for you, or you just like sweet taste. Bourbons normally have a sweet taste to them, but if you're looking for something even sweeter, like you put sugar in bourbon, this is where you'd be along the lines with it here with a little spice box. Plus, it sounds kinky, doesn't it? Don't you want a little spice box? Don't you want to touch the spice box? Okay, I'm going to stop anyway. So anyway, let's talk about what we saw this week. One of the interesting things, or one of the things about trading or just being successful at managing accounts or trading stocks or just doing better with your own portfolio, whatever your goals may be, the market is full of noise. We've talked about this before with CNBC and Bloomberg and other kind of news outlets that are constantly feeding you information. And this was another thing that we saw this week. The market always looks for an excuse to get you to sell your positions. I mean, if you look back, I think I can't even count how many it's been since I've been actively trading in the markets for 17 years. But more importantly, I guess what I'm trying to say is last year was a real big eye-opener for that because you had two events somewhat back-to-back. You had the Brexit that we've talked about before in these happy hours, where everybody said Brexit was going to be bad. You know my feelings on that if you've been following this. We saw a really knee-jerk reaction to that, but it proved to be one of the best buying opportunities, and the market had probably the best buying opportunity the market ever had. And definitely in the Lincoln List Trading Room, one of our best days, period. So when I look back, our very two best days was on those huge knee-jerk reactions. The second one, of course, being the election, when the market dumped and then came right back the next day, providing yet again another great opportunity to buy. These type of volatile situations, when you're first trading and you're first trading your account, investing or whatever it is, these become these poor events for you. And I mean poor by saying they make you nervous. They make you, and that's what they're there for. They're there to make you nervous and shake you out of your positions, but you don't know how to handle those events. And people sell their positions, they panic. We've also talked about that before, that panic is such a strong emotion. It's more powerful than greed. So people's fear will make them do stupid things, for lack of a better word. And you see a lot of people just bailing out of positions, selling stuff, asking questions later, thinking the world's going to be. I mean, if you just watch the news, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you just watch the news about anything, it always makes you feel like the world's going to end tomorrow. When in fact, the world does have its problems, but you know what? We're all better off now than we really ever have been. Now, you might be sitting there going, hey, man, you don't know my life. My life is horrible. I'm broke. I'm living on a couch. Still, a poor person in today's society is better off than a rich person back in the 1500s. I mean, you have more, you have medical technology that helps you live a better life. You have clean water. You have access to food. You have access to all the essentials. So you kind of know where I'm going, right? But to get off of that rant, what I'm really trying to say, while I'm just kind of like circling around here, just spitting out verbiage and dialogue towards you, is one of the best things that you can do to make money is as you progress through trading, you'll learn to embrace these moments, because it's these moments of fear and panic and indecision when everyone else looks like they're ready to just jump out the window. These will be your very best trading days and some of the best investments or the best buying opportunities that you will ever find. Now, you can always say there will be a market crash, but since I've been doing this, and I can't guarantee that the market would never collapse. But somehow we will find a way to pull through it. Now, as I said, 17 years of trading. I went through the dot-com implosion there. I think implosion is the word I'm looking for. And we came back from that. We came back from the Asian oil crisis. We came back from the credit crisis, which to me was worse than all of them, because people for the first time in some of their generations started to not believe banks would even be open anymore. So, we survived that. And my point is, you have this overhanging issue now about this healthcare bill. What's this healthcare bill going to do to the market? What's it going to do to the future of the market? To me, we'll get that ironed out. As a country, we're going to get that ironed out. Maybe it'll be worse in the short term. Maybe it'll be better in the long term, or vice versa. Who knows? That's not important. What's important is that these indecisive moments, I should say, is the perfect opportunity for you to seize. If you want to make big bucks in trading and investing, that's when you do it. You need to be buying stocks when everyone else is scared to death. And then when everybody else is getting euphoric, that's when you need to be selling your stocks. I mean, it goes back through every bubble in time. It goes through things like the housing bubble, right? All the people that were buying homes in 2002 and 3 were doing good. Anybody before that. Then people started chasing homes, 2004, 5, and 6. They started overpaying them, and people started getting that fear of missing out syndrome, and they would buy any house, no matter what condition it was in, no matter what the price was. And then the next thing you know, they lose their homes because they can't afford to live there, and the market tanks, and their housing costs, the value of their home goes, and they're just upside down. Investing works the same way. It's the same thing. It's not about whether something goes up or down. It's about the timing that you have. Do you get in it at the right spot? Do you purchase it at the right time? And do you sell it at the right time? And these are opportunities for everyone. These fearful opportunities are the best you'll find in the long term to make some serious money trading. So that's my rant. Now, I'm going to move on and talk about stocks, because we're going to talk more about stocks this week, because I think we've opened up the door here for some really nice trade ideas going into Monday, because this vote really kind of overhung on the market there for the last 2 days. And then it was supposed to come out. It was supposed to come out on Thursday. Then it was supposed to come out on Friday. And then it was supposed to come out Friday by the market close. And then like right there at the 13th hour, the rug pulled. No, we're postponing this whole vote, or at least while I'm doing this, that's the last piece. Who knows what's going on right now at this point. And then you saw a nice little spike in the market. So we're going to move, go ahead and talk about stocks here for the next couple minutes, give you some good trade ideas to get you started for the week. All right, now as I was saying, this was the first time, I believe, in 66, 67 trading sessions or whatever it may be, that we saw an intraday 1% move in the overall markets. And it was a down move, and it was a pretty good Pretty good selling day there on Tuesday, where the market just kind of sold from open to close. And that's something we really haven't seen I think we got to go back to September before we've seen any real thick selling in this market. And not only that, a day where it didn't bounce whatsoever, just kind of sold off. Now since then, it's just been kind of trading sideways. And if you're looking from a technical view, I'm going to open this up just a little bit. This red line I have on the bottom chart right here is the 50 moving average on the daily chart. You can see it's tapped out a few times, which is about, say 233. And it's managed to hold on to it right there. So if you're looking at maybe a shorter term correction in this market, you got some short positions, you're looking for a sell-off in the market, you're going to have to close under that. It's actually been a while. I think it's been back about since election, right here, since back in this area, when the market was actually under the 50 moving average. So pretty much from the election up until this point, it's been nothing but straight, full-on bullishness, relentless bullishness in this market. So it's something that a lot of traders are seeing for the very first time. Now, long-term, does this mean anything with this bill? Probably not. We're going to figure that out. We'll come together. We'll make it work somehow, or something will happen. But you can see how these decisions affect people's emotions, which is what trading is all about. And I'm going to show you Friday. This last little piece is intraday Friday on the market. The market's not going anywhere because everybody feels like they're a prisoner to this vote. And then as it's coming up, it's common to see some selling. You see all this else that gets postponed or, put off for the moment, and then the market just rallies right back. Again, it's just another way to get you out of your positions. Now, if you're a day trader, this stuff is extremely important to you because you're trading in these microseconds, minutes. So, you've got big positions on a table and you're trying to get things done in a short span. If you're an investor, this stuff is just one ear and out the other. It means nothing to you. It's just a better opportunity for you to buy stocks longer term because eventually they will work their way up. Now, when we look at stocks themselves, I got to look back at this AAOI, and I'm going to be full disclosure here. I was bearish on this thing from its move. I shorted it a couple of times, got burned, not burned, but I lost every time I did it. It was just a tough short. And one of the things about trading is you learn from your experiences. There'll come a time when you look at a chart or you see something that happens and you'll say to yourself, I remember this happened before. It happened with XYZ company, or it happened with this company. I remember this look. And one of the things that really stands out about AAOI is it reminds me of ACIA. Every year there's a couple of stocks that go on these bullish rampages where they start at really, really low prices and end up in triple digits. And I'm going to go back and mention some names. Whether they're at that point right now or not is irrelevant because it's just shorter term trading. But I look back at things like GoPro, FIT, last year ACIA, KITE, CWEI, NVIDIA, NVDA. These are stocks that started at incredibly low prices and went to the stratosphere once they got momentum. And the way those things acted, because I remember trading NVIDIA in the 40s. I'm going to pull up NVIDIA for you. I remember trading this stock last year in the 40s all the way down here. Now, I remember that. I remember trading ACIA in the same thing. Oh, I typed it in wrong. Hold on. ACI. I remember trading it back in these areas prior to these big moves. I remember that. And when I look about the way it acted back here and the way that you're looking at AAOI, boy, they're just very similar. Now, that doesn't mean AAOI is going to 100, but man, that's what's on the top of my mind. So I think this is a long, because the other day it just kind of bounced off the 20 moving average. Last 3 days it's just been on fire. So maybe as a longer term swing, you might see that. It may pull the same thing. It may go to $100 and then fade back to 50 like the rest of them. It doesn't matter, but just short term, will it produce you the alpha that you need? So watch this one, especially even no matter what your time frame horizon of trading, or time horizon of trading, I should say, 5650 is a big, big number on that stock. Another one here is PVH coming out of earnings for 2 days. It's just been a beast. It's just been a beast. This was 92 to 101. And I'm thinking maybe if you work your way up into some of this resistance up here, which is about 104, get about 104. It's probably a short. Now, when I say a short, I don't mean it's just a short because it goes up to 104. It would have to do a parabolic or some sort of rush move like this, like right after it had earnings, a big candle or a big push into 104. I think this would be a good short. If that doesn't happen, it's not a short. It's not going to be a short. I don't think it's a good risk to reward kind of trade. So it's going to have to set up like that, or I'm not interested. Now, it's going to be hard for it to do that anyway, because usually you get your parabolic moves on day 1 and day 2. After that, it's like they sort of melt up a little bit. Also, kind of looking at KITE here, biotechs have been hit and miss over the last couple of weeks. Most of them have been bullish, but this week we saw a mixed bag where you saw some big moves on some bios, and then some bios were like, didn't even exist. When the market hit, got that good sell-off, this thing came down from, I should say, 84 to 76. About a $10 move here to the downside, a pretty good sell-off right into the 20 moving average, and it kind of just held up through all of the mess. Now, for the short term, it's really been struggling with about 78 bucks, 78 and a half, somewhere in that area. But watch it. I mean, if you get a good strong market dead bounce coming off of that moving average, early buying pressure on Monday, maybe some bio news or something like that, this thing can roll up over 78. It could be a pretty good long, a pretty good long. So I kind of like that one there. Also this, where is it on my list? LITE, L-I-T-E. This is like a little, another one here. Look at this thing is rolling right up. Big old bounce off of its 50 moving average. Now I was short this thing a while back on this pull in the swing account. Covered a bit here off this 20 moving average, but since that point I've never really looked back at this. And now you can see a big old V-shaped rally. Now, it certainly looks bullish, but for me, it's always hard to buy a stock when it's made this V. You'll see it. Those people kind of new at charting. These V-shaped rallies are a little stingy for me to trade. That's a pretty sharp bounce. But it looks like it wants a little bit more. You'll just have to kind of look at some of the pullbacks in that and see how they play out. And that's about all I got. It was a crazy market, but that's about what I'm going to be looking at early. And of course, much of that will change Monday when we see what happens in the pre-market. And there you have it. Another happy hour in the books. To all my friends in Canada, I deeply apologize for my butchering of your national anthem, but I love it. I love it. And we got them Stanley Cup playoffs coming up. It's going to be amazing for hockey fans out there. Anyway, let's take a review. Remember, the most important thing of this whole rant, sometimes I just get carried away and I talk in circles. But the point is, some of the lessons that I learned I feel is very valuable to share with people. And one of those most valuable lessons that really helped me get from just struggling trader or breaking even or going around in circles like a hamster on a wheel to a completely different level with trading was blocking out the noise. Because no matter what trade you make or investment that you make, someone will always disagree with you. There will always be a piece of news that will dispute what it is that you're saying. And if I listened to everything that someone else said or some other news organization said, I would be shaken out of tons of positions and I would continually lose money. You've got to trust your own judgment from your research, from your experience, and from how you have managed your whole trading business. Again, you can never guarantee that there won't be a market crash, but I will always think that, our market is engineered to go higher. For most people, it's a longer term investment. So yes, the market will have some bumps and bruises. Yes, there will be worldly events and economic events that will set the market back and make you feel like it's all doom and gloom and everything is over with. But somehow we will always come together and make it work. We'll rebound it for it because that's what we do. That's what we do here in America. That's what our friends in the North do with Canada. Didn't mean I can't even say Canada. So the whiskey, though. Spicebox. This isn't too bad. It's actually very, very sweet. And I think this is a good holiday whiskey. So if you're looking for holiday drinks, eggnog or any just kind of party events, and cooking, I can just... When I mentioned bread pudding earlier, I'm actually thinking this would be really good to have some bread pudding with some sauce on top of it made with this. That would be really good. And it's 80 proof. It's not too bad. So anyway, again, guys, I want to thank you very much for tolerating this happy hour number 23. Big 25's coming up. As I always say at the end of every one of these videos, if you're struggling a little bit with your trading, if you need some help, there's so much more to learn about trading than just a strategy, than just hot stock picks. You know, it's a whole big thing that you need to be able to do as a trader. If you're struggling with that, you need to be in the kind of community that can help get the most out of you as a trader. Take a moment, visit thelincolnlist.com for a free trial to our live trade room. Until happy hour, episode number 24. And to all my friends in the North, cheers. Take care.